I made a video a few days ago called Data Trees that Laura Layla responded to, and that response made me think, so I'm going to just see if I can think through some of the ideas in that. I mean, what I was talking about was, I was in a little forest near where I live at the time when I made this video. It was a little bit like this. So it was this kind of a landscape. And what I was saying is that, as you move through a forest, or any kind of environment at all really, you get all these different alignments, you know what I mean? The branches of the trees line up, or the trunks of the trees seem to form rows around you. I'll just point in this direction so you can see as I'm moving. I don't know if you can see that, but little alignments are forming. Now, of course they're meaningless, it's a forest. But what I was speculating was that it would be quite interesting if they weren't meaningless, if there was data attached to each of these trees or each of these markings on trees. So each alignment brings with it a different set of meanings. I thought that would be quite interesting. Apparently there's something like that in the film Avatar, which I haven't seen yet. I think Zornstar mentioned that too. What I thought was really interesting what Laura Layla did with that, because she did a follow-up video on what appeared to be a pebbled beach, and it was a kind of beautiful set of pebbles and shells and things on this beach, and she kind of took the observation that I'd made and made a metaphor out of it, which I guess was always there really, to do with perspectives, opinions, beliefs, attitudes. I may be misrepresenting you here, Laura Layla, sorry about that, but it seemed to be about that the lines that form, in my case with trees, and in Laura Layla's case with lines of pebbles perhaps, or patterns that form in those kind of substrates, is that they're multiple, and just like taking a couple of steps forward in a forest brings a different set of data into alignment, a different set of trees into alignment, and on a beach it doesn't just you can do it by an act of will, see different patterns on the beach by an act of will. So I guess she was using that as a metaphor for, I guess, kind of tolerance or open-mindedness, or a willingness to see the different patterns that people form of their experiences in the world, you know what I mean? The world looks different depending on where you're standing, if I can simplify it, and different things seem to line up for you depending on who you are. And then that's pretty classic standpoint theory of what's she called? I can't get it. And it's the it underpins the principle of grounded knowledge and situated knowledge, and a lot of those kind of theories are based on that idea really. But I thought what was interesting is the slight differences between between my image, I suppose, and Laura Layla's image, and subsequently what Gary did in a follow-up as well, which I'll try and refer to at the end of this. Because obviously my video was taken in a forest, and the alignments are the alignments that I am making, and I am part of the alignment. I can just demonstrate it with this line of trees here, and as you can see, there's the trees by the river. Beautiful actually down here today. But if I just move this along a bit here, you can kind of feel almost the trees go stumph into alignment, yeah? But they're only doing that bump into alignment because I'm in a line with them. My eye is looking down that data and forming it into a line. It doesn't exist objectively, there's no objective arrangement here. Well, there kind of is here actually, but in a real forest there's no lines as such. You make the lines, just like you make patterns on the wallpaper when you're a kid, So there's something funny going on there. But in my video, because I was in amongst the trees, I was one of the trees in the forest, albeit a tree with legs that could move around a bit. The alignments were being formed by my participation in their alignment. I could only see one line at a time, pretty much. And although I had the capacity to change that alignment by moving my, line of sight, as I say, I was always just implicated in singular alignments. What Laura Layla did, which I thought was interesting, was of course she did that. It wasn't pointing at a piece of grass like I am, or a puddle like I am, or a load of grass and buttercups as I am. She was pointing at the beach. But the principle is the same. You know, you're not. Of course, you can see alignments, and if you're looking at this bunch of buttercups right now, you probably can see that some of them are forming in lines, or triangles, or circles, or any other pattern you want to think of. But none of them are. But you're not implicated in any of them. You're taking a kind of meta position on all of these patterns, and you can change it very easily by an act of will because you're not implicated. You know what I mean? And in fact, you can see the fragility of each pattern. You can see the man-made quality of them, I think. And that's just come about because of this change of perspective. This is what Donna Haraway calls the God trick, by the way. She, I can't remember where she writes about this, but she talks about the scientific worldview, particularly when misapplied to data which is not concrete, to soft data, the data from the social sciences or psychology studies, those kind of things. Where Donna Haraway critiques the viewpoint, critiques the treatment of a lot of that by saying that what scientists often do is by, you know, instead of being down here saying, yeah, this is how the data lines up for me, you know, they claim some kind of God position and say, yes, I am looking down at the data from the objective position of an elevated, standing on the shoulders of giants type scientist, and this allows me to make absolutist claims about data because I have an overview. And just listen to the language. I have an overview. And of course many times they don't. If it's misapplied, they don't have an overview at all. Sometimes they do. Hard data does allow an overview, soft data doesn't, broadly speaking. Okay. That's all I've got to say. Yeah, just the last thing about Gary's response. Gary does something interesting because he gets down amongst the rocks, doesn't he? You know what I mean? And he talks about what it's like to be between a rock and a hard place in the kind of real world of moral choices and political choices, and the kind of moral relativism which Donna Haraway is critiquing in. I think she's critiquing that. Yeah, she's kind of critiquing moral relativism, at least partially, in this God trick thing, you know, treating the soft sciences as if they were something you could hover above and not be involved in. You know, Gary is kind of, I think, if I understand him correctly, he's going down amongst the rocks, you know what I mean? And saying, yeah, it's all very well hovering above the rocks and spotting the pretty patterns, but if you're actually a rock being pushed on by another rock, and you've got a different rock pushing up you, you know, from the back, then it starts to count, and that feeling of things counting is, for want of a better word, a feeling of things being right. And there may also be, you know, hard data as well. You know, it depends what you're talking about, I suppose. It depends what that data is. Yeah, I think that'll do. I don't know what that sound is. I'll just find out. There's a pheasant in the field over there. That's not what's making the sound. Let's have a look. Oh, it's a helicopter. Probably on a mission to take out the people in Cornwall.